Tomorrow is primary day, and I've been qualifying that by saying sort of, because it technically is primary day, but it's the last day actually to get a mail-in ballot, which then you'd have a couple more weeks to get the thing in, and the ballots will then be counted the evening of June 2nd. There aren't a lot of primaries that are taking place in southern Idaho, but there are a handful of those, and one of those is for Twin Falls County Sheriff. Three Republicans, including the incumbent, Tom Carter, would like to keep the job. And he's joining us this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 56. Bill Colley with you, and it's 8:34. And Sheriff, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to it.
I was going to say, when we had a conversation, I know, way back, I think at the fair last year, and I don't know even at the time if you were considering running again or not, but I got the impression you weren't in any hurry to quit. And you feel you still have some work to get done.
You know what? Everything positive that we got going is still positive. That's, and I always said I was going to stay here until they booted me out. I love this job. I spent my whole life in this county, and the opportunity to do what I do is just beyond belief.
There's a well, anybody has to enjoy their work if they want to keep doing it. And you have an opportunity, I think, at any point to say, you'll reach that day when you decide, I don't need to do this anymore. But obviously getting up and going in and irregular hours and everything else that's involved with that's something you still like.
It is. I can't believe anybody would not like to do what I do, and don't get me wrong, I wish I could take credit for everything positive that this agency does, but I got a phenomenal senior staff here that makes my life a whole lot easier.
Well, the other thing we need to point out, too, is we had all of this talk a couple of months ago about how dangerous this situation was going to be with coronavirus in the jail, and as it turns out, here we are a couple of months into this. Somebody's doing this well because we don't have any sort of epidemic racing through the jail.
Well, I'll tell you, Bill, that's this whole COVID thing. What has me the most concerned is getting that in a jail or in prison, in any facility, not just mine, any of them. Where it's showed up, they have had problems that is unbelievable. I'm fortunate. I got a jail commander that stays right on top of everything, and the judges are helping me, and probation and parole people are helping me, and knock on wood, so far we've not had a sign of it. But the downside to that is at some point when this thing is over, all the court action that has been postponed is going to come roaring back.
Yeah.
Just because they postpone something don't mean you're off the hook. You're still going to have to answer for whatever you've been accused of. And when that happens, boy, my jail population issue is going to explode.
Because a lot of those people, I mean, if they weren't really dangerous, they were just told, you get an appearance ticket, right? But as we get a little closer to all of this, they're going to be finding that new home all of a sudden.
Well, they are for a while anyway. Until their court cases have been adjudicated, absolutely.
This, of course, has been the big issue, I think, of the last several years, is this jail situation. And obviously we have a somewhat of a solution on the way, but I don't know that in the long term it can address what we're really going to see. And maybe this, after when you finally do decide to hang up the spurs, I'm going to guess it's going to still be dogging this county.
You're exactly right. And the commissioners, I got to hand it to them. They've stepped up to the plate, and they're helping every way we can, to get this population thing taken care of. Not only is the amount of inmates we have dangerous for them, but it's dangerous for my staff. And there is just, as I see it, there is no other way to solve this problem than to expand. You get 100 people sleeping on the floor, that's a problem.
Yeah, and we got a county that keeps growing, and if the county continues to grow, you just look at the percentage, the numbers you're going to find in the jail, that's going to grow along with that. There's really no other way around it.
Well, there is not, and I think most everybody realizes that. I can't imagine that you wouldn't. With the like I say, this county has grown expeditiously. And it only stands to reason that with that comes problems, and not only my problem, but the court's problem. It's my patrol staff, detectives, all of them, they are keeping up with their call loads. That part of it doesn't concern me nearly as much. But what does concern me is this jail issue. It's a question of time until there's going to be lawsuits that's going to happen because of this. And there's no way around that. The only way around it would be to expand.
Well, we got to take a short break. We've got more coming up with Twin Falls County Sheriff Tom Carter in just a couple of minutes. We're going to talk a little bit about his campaign, and most of us don't know a lot about his opponents, and we're going to talk about his experience versus what we see from the opposition. That's on the way in just a couple of minutes. It's 55. We're coming up on 8:40. Bill Colley with you on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Twin Falls County Sheriff Tom Carter joining us this morning. He's running in a Republican primary, looking to serve another term as your sheriff. It's 8:42. We're at 54 on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I've got a question that came in via instant message, but we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. The first couple of things that I do want to bring up is the sheriff is running against two people, one who has a law enforcement background from, I believe, Elko County. The other, I don't believe, has ever worked in law enforcement. And Sheriff, I know that that's one point of difference you really wanted to emphasize today is you've been doing this a very, very long time.
I've been in this business well over 30 years, and I'm still learning. Every day I go to work, I learn something. It's hard to wrap my mind around anybody that would run for this position with absolutely no experience. I mean, it's not like you worked in a city department at some point or a county department or whatever. When to assume that you could just take over a position like mine without any experience would be really tough.
Well, and the other candidate, yeah, I realize has a law enforcement background, but coming from another state, sometimes there are some differences there as well that when it comes to, we tend to believe that you put on the badge and you strap on the gun and that it's probably similar everywhere, and I do understand that. But there are obviously going to be some differences between Nevada and Idaho.
Well, there'd be considerable differences. The only common thread in law enforcement is how you treat people and how people treat you. If it doesn't matter if you're in Idaho or Nevada or wherever you're at, you have the opportunity to make a positive issue with people, and that's about where it ends. As far as the Idaho laws and the Nevada laws are considerably different. Everything from their courts to their jails are different. And there again, a person with experience would at least know how to deal with people that you have come in contact with at some point in your career. But other than that, that's where it would end. I've always said that an agency my size whoever replaces me needs to come from an Idaho agency as bigger, because then you understand that the sheriff's office has lots of rules and things that city officers don't have. We have a civil agency that we have to run that's huge. A jail, holy cow! You want to get into problems, as like we just talked about. There's all kinds of problems that arise out of a jail, and there's working it. I started my career at Twin Falls County working the jail. I was there for about 2 years before I got out and ended up in the patrol division and worked my way up to a sergeant. And sergeant in a patrol position, I got to tell you, is a pretty good job. That's just kind of what a lot of people strive for, and that's where they end up with. I got a captain here now that was a sergeant and went from sergeant to captain, and I'm not so sure he thinks I done him any favors. and he's way too big to argue with.
Yeah. And you're right. Maybe, probably. I don't. Nevada. I have very little experience. I was at a concert over at Jackpot one time, an outdoor concert, and I got to meet some of the deputies who were just doing crowd control and traffic control and the like. And I'm sure it's a tough job, but again, there are obviously going to be differences. Here's an unusual question. I'm going to read this verbatim to you. This came in from someone listening who, I don't know if they want their voice or name used, but the writer says, where the Constitution guarantees the protection of life, do you think this right to life includes the life in the womb? If so, how do we justify the over 200 babies killed in Twin Falls every year?
Well, for me to get involved in abortion, I can only say what I am. I'm not going to go into the abortion problem. I am pro-life personally, but that's easy for me to say because I've never been pregnant, and nor will I ever. That's my opinion. As far as delving into something that deep on this program, I just don't want to go there.
Now, I had a couple of other people ask me questions over the weekend when I mentioned you were going to be here, and there was a sheriff I know in Michigan, I believe it was, who was asked on a radio show Friday about his governor's orders on their lockdown, which were a lot more severe than ours, and he just said, we're too busy enforcing the laws to really follow up and close down businesses that may open. To my knowledge, though, we didn't have any serious. People have. I guess they've tried to fill in the blanks, and they think that perhaps that's happened in Twin Falls County. But to my knowledge, you haven't been chasing down anyone who opened their doors.
Bill, with the governor's order, I am fortunate in this county I've not had to, my agency has not had to enforce any of that. I think most people understand there's a problem, and they will do their part to solve that problem. As far as there are sheriffs that just simply want to pick a fight with the governor. And I don't see anything positive picking a fight with our governor over whether or not he has the authority to lock down this state. Clearly, there is a law that says him or the health department can do that, and that's a state statute. Until somebody challenges that in the federal court, it is law. Like I say, I am really fortunate, and as are most sheriffs, I think, that we've not had to deal or we've not had to enforce it. I can tell you. I can tell you that I wouldn't, and my agency is not going to write tickets or whatever they need to do to enforce this thing. But that being said, they've not had to.
Right. Yeah, Twin Falls County, I think, has been perhaps among the most quiet statewide when it comes to all of this.
I think so too. I talked to different sheriffs around the state, and the lion's share of them, not only in this state, but I've talked to sheriffs other places, feel the same way about it I do. It's there's a fringe of people who simply think that you should just immediately go public and pick a fight, and there are things that I would do that over, but just not this one, not now, not until I have to.
Here's a question. This one comes in from a writer in Eden. And the writer says, do you understand the Constitution, and do you know it is the first and foremost law?
I do understand that. Yes, I do. Ellen, thank you very much for the question.
I also heard from somebody a couple of weeks ago, and in fact, I think that some of your staff heard this too. We had a question during our gun show a couple of weeks back. Someone curious about, enforcing various laws on guns. And I wanted to get back to this because it was at least 2 or 3 years ago, you were in the studio with me one day and that subject came up, and you said that if someone ever ordered, a sweep to try to pick up people's firearms, they'd have to find a new sheriff.
Bill, that is a fight that I'd pick. I absolutely would not now, not ever, try to take anybody's gun that has a legal right to own it. That would either create the biggest resignation in town, or that would put me in jail right next to whoever wanted their guns taken. The Second Amendment to me is, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. I believe in it. I live it. And that's an argument that nobody's ever going to get out of me, is whether or not I agree or disagree with the Second Amendment.
Well, yeah, and I don't know that we'd ever see, the current composition of our state legislature, it makes it highly unlikely we'd ever see a red flag law. Now, if the Treasure Valley grows and the politics continue to change there, who knows? But I don't think at the time, at least on the near-term horizon, it's going to be an issue.
There's a good friend of mine out of Arizona. Arizona's got this red flag law going right now, and the bulk of the sheriffs there have said no, we're not going to do that, and they've picked the fight. The way I look at that is, unless there is a due process of some kind that says somebody can't have a gun, I'm not going to enforce it. I just am not. That to me is a monumental violation of the Second Amendment. I could be mad at you and make out whatever complaint I wanted to make about you, and if there was a judge wanted to sign that, then you have no recourse. You have to prove that you're not whatever I said you are. I don't believe in it. I haven't ever believed in it, and I like to say, as long as the makeup of this state is as it is, we won't have to deal with it.
We have a caller looking to reach us. I wanted to mention it's 8:53. Twin Falls County Sheriff Tom Carter with us this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX with Bill Colley. And caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Well, you're speaking of red flags. Saturday night, I was at a very high-end local restaurant and bar combination, and the city police came in about 9 o'clock and said that, if you're not careful, they're going to red flag you. And the owner is a friend of mine, and I just thought that it was totally unnecessary. And I don't know if the chief knew he did it.
What is the city
or
of
the
Twin?
Officer.
Go ahead. What city? What city?
Twin Falls. Falls. Okay. Right on. Yes. Right on Blue Lakes. So sorry. Forgive me for not making that clear. I'm sorry, but he threatened red flagging the business, and I thought it was totally unnecessary. People are so fed up with this, telling us what to do. We're all grown. We're all adults here, I'd like to think. Well, it'd be nice if you'd treat us like this. And I'm not saying Carter did this. I'm just going to told you what happened. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Sheriff?
If color's still on, 99% of the agencies in the state of Idaho are treating this thing the same way I do. I don't, of course, I have no idea what that was about, or I know Chief Kingsbury quite well, and I'm confident he has no plans of writing citations. So I really have a hard time commenting on that, other than to say that I can't say anything because I wasn't there, and I don't have any idea why that happened.
Well, and if the governor, what's interesting is he issued these orders, but there really hasn't been. A lot of people got warnings via the state police, with the alcohol licensing bureau, but I don't know that any sheriffs were put under any pressure, or that they would have bowed to any pressure if it had been put on them.
They have not, Bill, and I know that because I would have heard if they had. I can't imagine any sheriff in this state that feels much different about it the way I do. And to give the governor, I'm sure that decision that the governor made was tough. I know the man. He's not some kind of an egomaniac that wants to prove how much power he's got. So whatever the end result of this would have to be through the state police. because like I say, my agency is not doing it, and we haven't had to do it, and that's maybe there's a distinction there.
Would your agency have even had the time to do it?
Probably not. I really hate to give some positive answer there.
Oh, hey, here's a quick question. A writer wants to know what do you call them, agencies and not departments? And that might be one Jack Johnson could answer too, because he's a stickler about that. But why do you call them agencies or offices?
The sheriff's office. It is a sheriff's office and a police department. That is the proper terminology of that, and it always has been. I am an elected official, so that's the difference between me and police departments is I'm beholding to the voters and taxpayers, and the chief of police is beholding to a city council and the city manager. So,
but agency is more of a blanket term for all law enforcement, then.
Yes, I use agency because I am really big on teamwork. Since I've been in office, one of the things I've done the very most and talked the very loudest about is swearing in city officers, federal officers. I don't care. I look at this like we're all in this business together. So agency is a term that will encompass all of us.
I was going to say we got about a minute to go. Anything you wanted to let people know before we wrapped up?
Yes, I do. I want to talk just a little bit about the two biggest changes since our last election. All the good stuff's still good. School resource drones, dogs, fiscal responsibility. We're still in the black, and that's a good thing. The two biggies, though, that I'm most proud of is I've teamed up with Chief Kingsbury on our SWAT and a Special Investigative Unit that is now city-county. And there is no downside to either one of them. We got a team of detectives that works independent of both our agencies, and they got some incredible statistics that they've acquired since they started this thing. The SWAT deal only makes sense. It saves money. It gives a SWAT unit one command structure instead of two command structures, and that's good. That's a positive thing.
Well, Sheriff Carter, always good talking with you, and we'll be getting together again sometime soon. And I'll have to admit, I wish you luck.
Thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate it.
Take care, sir. Sheriff Tom Carter from Twin Falls County joining us this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. I may offer some thoughts on the other candidates in the next couple of days. It's 56 at 8:59. And we've got news next and one more hour of Magic Valley This Morning still ahead. I was telling our next guest, we were talking briefly yesterday via social media, and I was saying that because of the unusual nature of this year's state primary, and that is people have another 11 days to get ballots in, and a lot of people are going to wait until as close as they can to that last minute because they're really shopping, I think, at this point. The last couple of months in this country, I think people have become a little bit more politically attuned, and more ballots, as I understand, have been sent out for absentee than ever before. That would make sense because no one's going to a polling place, but the numbers may actually set records anyway for a primary turnout. Jeremy Merritt is with us this morning. He is one of three candidates who would like to be the next sheriff of Twin Falls County. He's running in the Republican primary. The other two, of course, being the incumbent Tom Carter and Steve Pankey, who's a perennial candidate. Bill Colley with you, too, on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. We're at 42, 6 minutes after 7 o'clock. And Jeremy, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
We were, of course, I have a little bit about your background already, but as I understand it, you've already had one full career in law enforcement, and maybe you can tell folks a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had 20 years with Elko County Sheriff's Department. I spent my first 8 years working in the jail, and I was able to get transferred to patrol in Jackpot. I spent my last 12 years working in Jackpot, serving the people of Nevada and Idaho.
I was going to say, you get a lot of Idaho traffic over there.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, and I got to work with quite a few Twin Falls County officers, like DUIs and wrecks on the Idaho side, and I don't think there's a better job out there than law enforcement. You get to meet new people all the time, and you get to help people.
Yeah, of course, a lot of those people you meet, the new people, probably don't want to meet you, but it still has to happen. And then you returned. Of course, you're a native of Twin Falls County. You returned after retirement and have settled again and calling Filer home, as I understand it.
Yes.
So what?
Yeah, I was
Sorry, go
born
ahead.
and raised here.
Okay, so you're a graduate of Filer High School then?
No, it would have been nice, but I was kind of one of those troubled teens. I didn't get good grades. I didn't focus on school like I should have, and I ended up going to a private school in Salem, Oregon, where my attitude continued, and I had to come back to CSI and get a GED.
I was going to say you've seen the world.
Feels like it at times.
Yeah. Question a lot of people are probably asking you is, why do you want to be sheriff at this stage of the game?
I believe the people are the ones that should come first. They're one of the great community is one of our greatest assets in law enforcement when it comes to fighting crime. And I really enjoy working with people, other officers, and I didn't realize how much I enjoyed it until I retired.
I was going to say, people might be asking you when it comes to Sheriff Carter, what is it you feel that he hasn't done, and why do you think we need that change?
Well, one of the things that I've been getting questioned a lot about is, how do I look at taking care of the public? And complaints is that sometimes it's hard to get a hold of Carter, and a lot of administrators from the sheriff's department are not in the office as often as the community would like. Where if I was in the sheriff's position, I'd make sure that not just myself, but the undersheriff would have our numbers added to the automated machine so people could get a hold of us instead of having to go through a bunch of hoops.
I have some questions coming in via our app, from our cell phone app this morning, too, and I want to point out, I'll share those in just a moment. Also, if you'd like to reach Jeremy Merritt, News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com, you can do that by calling 208-736-0300, 208-736-0300. And again, he is one of three candidates in the Republican primary for Twin Falls County Sheriff. The primary closing effectively at the close of business day, a week from Tuesday, June 2nd. Here's a question for you, and some of these are going to be, I think, somewhat tough for you. A writer from Twin Falls says that you mentioned integrity is the on your Facebook page or your campaign page, and he said that you've mentioned that, and it's you have to have strong moral principles. But the writer asks if you ever had, while you were in Elko County, any disciplinary action taken against you.
Yes, I did.
How did that get resolved?
I had time off, loss of pay, and so I accepted my punishment, and I've had write-ups for not getting certain things done on time. So, yeah, I accept the responsibility for the position I was in. If I did something wrong, then I deserved the disciplinary that was coming.
But you returned to work after that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then another one. This comes in from a writer in Twin Falls. And the writer says, do you think that while running in a conservative state, it's important to have conservative values? That's kind of open-ended. What's your take on that?
I think so. I mean, to me, I been trying to get out as much as I can and to listen to the people, listen to what they want, and try to find out what they're lacking to see if what they're wanting is actually plausible.
I guess if you weren't a conservative, you'd be running as a Democrat, right? Most likely.
I probably just wouldn't run.
Hey, and then here's another one. This comes in from Twin Falls. Writer says, looked at your Facebook page and said that in the 20 years you were there, you did not get promoted to supervisor, and the writer wants to know why that was.
That is true. I did not get promoted. I tested several times for promotions, but it was the typical good old boy system. If you're not in the clan, then you're just not in. And Elko County was taking a different avenue on the way they were doing their supervisors. They wanted all the supervisors in Elko, which I tried to explain to the administration, can't supervise jackpot from Elko. And I was told by the sheriff at that time, if I wanted to move back to Elko, I would have an opportunity for promotion. But my kids, my family lived here in Filer, and I told them, it's just, to me, it's not worth it. I'm not going to move back to Elko and leave my kids and my family.
We've got to get to a break in just a moment, but we have more with Jeremy Merritt on the way. He is one of 3 Republicans running in the primary for Twin Falls County Sheriff. Again, primary day technically was this past Tuesday, but because things are being done by mail this year, primary ballots can still be cast right up until June 2nd at the close of business day at the Board of Elections, and then those will be counted that Tuesday night and announced, about 8 p.m. or so, I believe. In the meantime, we have to get to a break for the Farm Report and a check of the weather. Bill Cawley with you, too, on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. And again, if you'd like to reach Jeremy Merritt in the next segment, 208-736-0300, 208-736-0300, or you can shoot me a message via the app function. If you've downloaded our app for your smartphone, that's a convenient way to do that. 20 minutes after 7 o'clock, it's 41 on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. This is Magic Valley This Morning. Jeremy Merritt with us until 7:30. He is a candidate running for Twin Falls County Sheriff. He is one of 3 Republicans. Primary, of course, stretches through June 2nd. This is all being done by mail-in ballots. Bill Cawley with you today until 10 a.m. And Jeremy, I got a question that came in from somebody about the Second Amendment, and it's almost a duplicate question that I got the other day for one of the other candidates. But the writer wants to know your position on the Second Amendment and asks if you support it. As sheriff, to what lengths would you go to protect it?
Well, definitely I support the Second Amendment, and I don't believe anyone has the right to try to take that amendment away from us. We have the right to protect ourselves, our property, all our family. And I would do whatever it takes to make sure the people within the community have that same right.
I heard the other day, I think Sheriff Carter has stated in the past that he would, if someone told him that, we were going to bring an end to the Second Amendment and start seizing people's firearms, he said he would be refusing and he'd likely end up in jail next to everybody else. Would you take the same stand?
Oh, definitely. I'd be the first one to go to jail.
That's good to know. I think that a lot of people out there feel the same way. A couple of other quick questions. There are, I think, 145 years of experience among the management team at the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Office. And those are the people who are working under the sheriff, captains and the like. Because you've not been a supervisor, how do you think you'd be able to work with those people?
I think I'd be working fine with them. I mean, I would listen to what they have to say and determine if that's the best route to go. Because just because you're the boss doesn't mean your way is the only way.
Right.
And I have supervised when the supervisor was gone, the sergeant or whatever was off, then I was the next senior individual on. So I was in a position where I got my butt chewed for what other people did, or had to make decisions that sometimes were on the fly. And so, yeah, it's a good question. I believe that I don't have a problem taking constructive criticism. Matter of fact, I would appreciate honesty and just being upfront and forward with me on what they think, and if I'm not doing a good job, then tell me.
There are all these people who are working there, of course, and often the sheriff picks her own team. Would you work with that same team, or do you have a plan in place where you might bring in some of your own people that you feel that you might be more easily that you could more easily rely upon?
If I actually get in there, I would definitely just have to sit back, watch how things run, try to interact with everybody, and kind of get their thought on things, and then go from there on who I think may need to be replaced.
How long, if you were to win, would you expect to serve term wise? I mean, you're looking at one term, or you're looking at multiple terms, perhaps making it a second career?
Oh, I definitely want this to be a second career. I would run as long as I possibly could, unless the people were telling me that they weren't happy with me. Then I'm not going to waste their time to continue running if I'm just not doing a good job, which I would strongly encourage the community to let me know how they think things are going when I get in, and because that's very important.
Here's a lighter question. Now, this one comes in from a former coach at Salem Academy, and wondering what private school did you attend while you were in Oregon?
It was called the Salem. Great. It was a Western Mennonite Academy.
Okay. We've got a caller, I think, looking to join us, and we've only got a couple of minutes to go. So caller, a question or comment, you've got to make it a quick one. You're on the air with Jeremy Merritt on KLIX. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Bill and Jeremy. Jack Johnson here. A quick question, Jeremy. The sheriff's office has roughly about a $7 million budget, and just curious what experience you bring to manage that kind of a massive budget, and how you plan on going about that.
I want to thank him for the call. Jeremy, go ahead.
That's a very good question. It's something I have a copy of the budget for the jail and for the patrol. I've been going over it for, I think, well over a month now at least. And if I feel that I'm over my head, I will definitely seek counsel on the best way to take care of it, either by discussing things with the commissioners, or I have talked to an individual that teaches financing at CSI to help me out with that. And so,
a quick question, because just that the last caller got me thinking about of course, we've had this long-standing debate about the future of the jail, and we're going to have a temporary, I think, solution for the next few years. How do we go about selling this to the public? Because we're going to need that space. We're going to need a lot more space as time goes on.
Yeah, that's one problem I see with where they hook the jail to the court. They're kind of landlocked, it looks like, and they can't add on there. So they're going to have to, for the safety of the inmates and the officers, people need to understand if they don't find a spot to try to build a new jail, they're going to end up looking at people getting hurt and lawsuits.
One last quick question for you. People who'd like to know more about your campaign, you do have a Facebook presence, right?
I do have Facebook. I have a campaign webpage, and I have an email just specific for the campaign. It's merrittforsheriff@gmail.com. My website is merrittforsheriff@gmail.com.
And again, we need to point out too, your name is spelled, you spell the last name Maritt, just
Yes,
in
sir.
case anyone might confuse that. Jeremy, I got to let you run, but hey, thank you so much for your time today. And I know we jumped through a lot of hoops the last few days, and it was finally good to get in touch with you. And as always, I wish all the candidates, good luck, because so few people ever run for political office. It's not something that I would take as easy. And possibly we may be talking again at some point.
Thank you very much for having me.
Take care, sir. Jeremy Merritt joining us this morning, Republican candidate for Twin Falls County Sheriff. One of three running in the primary. The others are the challenger, Steve Pankey, and the incumbent, Tom Carter. It's coming up on 7:30. We have a break for news. It's 38. Bill Cowley with you on Magic Valley this morning. The gun guy's coming along just after the news at 8 o'clock this morning.